everybody. Welcome to the LT Gaming Sunday podcast, Sunday Chats, where we're going to introduce ourselves and our channel, LT Gaming. One of the things that we've recently done is we've rebranded from my personal YouTube into LT Gaming. So I'm Luke, and this is Tom. Say hello, Tom.
Hello, Tom.
Good stuff. Every
Yeah,
time.
every time. It never gets old.
Never gets old, never gets old. So yeah, our channel is going to be general gaming content. We have some ideas coming up. We want to do some cool Let's Plays. I'm going to focus on certain games a little bit more casually. And Tom, what's your plan for content?
Um, Probably to look in a little more into certain games which I feel I'm quite good at least.
Yeah, I
And
feel
do a
like even
bit more exhaustive, extensive playthroughs.
your Heroes 3 playthrough is on impossible difficulty is something I wouldn't even attempt. So I feel like that's going to bring something to the channel, which is a bit different.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, there's kind of a place for the casual type of approach to gaming, and then I think there's also like an audience for the uh, who want to see challenges, people trying to excel against certain odds or certain handicaps in place. So, yeah, I'm going to look to try and do a little more of the latter. Um, it's my own interest as well, to be honest.
Good, good. And I think that we're going to try and make the cooperative stuff we do together a little bit more funny, right?
Yeah, well, obviously I'm the funny one, so I have to carry it for the two of us. But we, we can definitely give it a shot. But
Okay,
I feel
okay.
like the Minion Masters content definitely it's kind of a frantic game anyway, so you just that facade drops a bit, so it's good.
Definitely, yeah, I agree with you. So, yeah, that's the look at the content moving forward. We really appreciate the likes and subscribes. We need, we would like to see those metrics go up. It's kind of a reward for our work. So, do like our videos, do subscribe, comment with improvements. We'd really appreciate all that. So, just briefly,
Or you could just troll us even with comments. We don't mind.
we don't care. We'll survive.
Beggars can't be choosers at this stage.
Exactly, exactly. Um, so what I'd like to sort of briefly talk on is right now, um, go through what you're really playing. Maybe, stick to 5 games that are currently on your radar and what you're enjoying right now. Just give us a synopsis of the type of games you enjoy currently.
Yeah. So the one game I've been locked into a lot is Heroes 3. And a lot of people would know this, but there was a fan-made release expansion called Horns of the Abyss, and that has really expanded the game, opened it back up, a lot of new features, and there's a real thriving multiplayer community there. So I'm really enjoying that. Minion Masters, which we've been playing together, and I've also been enjoying a few kind of grindy roguelike games, namely Monster Train, which is on Xbox Live, Game Pass, and Slay the Spire, which is also on there.
Great. Okay. So very different to me, really, at the moment. For me, I've been playing survival horror game Chernobylite, so a little bit on the Resident Evil train. I was going to get Resident Evil 8, but I didn't yet. So I've been
Why
playing
not? Why didn't you get Resident Evil 8?
primarily for a bit of a nerdy reason, FOV. So I get a lot of motion sickness when I play games, especially if the field of view is too narrow. So the fact it had no built-in FOV, I just think it's a little bit behind the times. I heard that it's 8 to 10 hours, and to be honest, at the moment, I'm kind of into games that I sink a lot of time in. It's an
What
action.
is so it's like a fixed FOV? Is that the problem?
Yeah, it's a fixed FOV, really geared towards console gaming. That's the issue, really.
Ah,
And in that instance, if I play a game like that, I get sick. Really, I could start feeling queasy. It's a huge problem for a lot of gamers, and it's generally considered good practice to put in an FOV slider in your options. But still, some of the big game developers aren't doing it, which is a shame.
yeah, I actually don't know anything about this. I just know whenever there's the option, I expand it to 110.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's usually fixed at 90, I think.
yeah, I think 90 can be okay, but I think for Resident Evil 8, it's down low, like 70 or something silly like that. So it's built for playing on a big TV, which is not geared towards us PC gamers. I do have a lot of consoles here as well, but I really would prefer to play that game on PC for some reason. But it's not
And
the only reason. It's an 8 to 10 hour action game, and to be honest, I want a bit more time commitment into my games. I think if you look at the games I've played on Steam, I've got a number of 400-hour plus games now, or over 300 hours in multiple games. So I like to get that sort of content from them. But anyway, I'm playing survival horror Chernobylite. It's quite a lot of fun. It's a bit different, and I'm really enjoying that. And I'm going to do a little playthrough on that and a little review so people can see the gameplay. I'm also back playing a game called Helium Rain, which is very much like a 2001 Space Odyssey type game, and the atmosphere of that game is probably one of the best I've ever played. I really, really enjoy it. It would probably slip into my top 10. I'm playing some X4, which is my most played game on Steam. Absolutely love that game for immersion in space and just some of the role playing you can kind of do in your own head with that game. Total War 3 Kingdoms is on my radar. I played a lot of that recently and was massively impressed with the strategy element. I have a new game called Spaceborne, which is an indie space game I'm trying out. And then I am also doing some DCS in the background. So I have quite a lot of games I'm playing on Switch and Xbox as well. So I'm trying to balance my time with working and doing all this gaming. So it can be quite hard.
yeah, I've also dabbled in the DCS. Well, you forced me to dabble in DCS.
I think I've been going at you for over a year on doing a few flights with me, right? And you just
Yeah,
refused.
I, I mean, I haven't fallen in love with it, but it seems like you need a lot of the additional equipment to really engage with that game.
You
Just
do,
playing
and
on mouse and keyboard, I find it very pedantic and a bit, excessive detail, which I think is probably the selling point for the people who are, enjoying it.
yeah, look, even me, I have a lot. I have the joystick and I have the thrust, and without a head tracking device, it's virtually impossible to actually win dogfights past a certain level, which is frustrating. I played it in VR and I absolutely hated it in VR because it made me sick. Um, but that was another experience. That
Jesus
was,
Christ.
yeah, it was pretty full on. But yeah, I think that's the big issue really with it is that it's so hardcore that unless you have a head tracking device, even I find I can pretty much just do bombing missions and do some basic air to air. Um, and without that head tracking to turn your head and be able to look where you're turning is difficult. So yeah, it's a hardcore game. It's a brilliant game. It's got great graphics and a very dedicated community. But for me, I know I spent a lot of money on it. It's still a sort of dive in, dive out sort of game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested in it. It was fun just even doing the takeoff and that. So I will put a bit more time into doing, you said like I think the air to ground missions are very fun. I saw a few videos of like people attacking ships and stuff like that, and that actually looked quite engaging. It's just a bit disheartening when I take off, list left endlessly, and then eventually hit the ground or shoot out.
Yeah, and look,
Um,
honestly, people get very hardcore, but if you get a controller, that'll fix that. The fact you're trying to play mouse and keyboard, I know there are people who have done it and they've made videos on it and they've become quite proficient. But for me, it's you really need that access to really
right.
pull up and obviously push down towards the ground. I think that helps.
Yeah.
Because look, I saw you
I think
take off. You were listing to the left, and it wasn't getting any better as you tried to fix it.
yeah, it feels like there's a weight attached to my left wing, and I'm just constantly fighting a barrel roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting a controller soon, so I'll be able to probably give it a better shot. I think a bit more engaged as well then with the controller. I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, so yeah, another topic I wanted to touch on with you was maybe some of the games on your wish list. Is there anything you're looking forward to coming up?
Um, there is one game which I've been seeing a lot of videos on. That is Age of Empires 4.
Okay, cool.
Um, Age of Empires 2 was a huge game for me when I was younger. I remember I think you got Star Siege Tribes.
I think it was either
I,
colonization. I know it was Star Siege Tribes. Yeah, I think Star
yeah,
Siege Tribes.
you
Yeah,
got, which was not many people know, but one of the first online shooters.
yeah.
Um,
And ironically, I
which
think you became far better at that game than I was. Right, eventually.
I was obsessed with that game for a long time.
Yeah.
But so you got that, and I got Age of Empires 2. And I just absolutely adored that game. Played all the campaigns through. Tried to become good at it, as good as 8 or 9 year old can become. But yeah, it was a great game. Still play. Obviously they updated and released massive graphics updates and the rest of it for Age of Empires 2. Still a massively popular game now. But I did see some of the videos. Looked very fun, quite atmospheric videos that they've released. So I am looking forward to that.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
That
Yeah, I
that
know
that would be like a AAA game that I'm actually looking forward to.
I have some interest in it, but my actual interest in the genre of traditional RTS has waned a little bit. And that's ironic because the game that's actually top of my wish list is Starship Troopers Terran Command.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's coming soon, hopefully, but it really is one that's highly anticipated. It's coming from being published by Slytherin, who do a lot of good strategy games. And it's an RTS from what I can see. So
Is
I
that the
love.
guys who did the Warhammer? What do you call them? The ones we've played before.
Oh, Gladius.
The Gladius. Yeah. Is that the
It,
same
it's not the same, obviously, developer, but it's the same publisher.
publisher? That's right.
Yeah,
I've heard
same
of them
publisher. So
before.
yeah, and look, I love Starship Troopers the movie. I love the book, which is a little bit different in tone to the movie. It's one of those really interesting sci-fi genres that has never. There was a couple of games I think in the late '90s that around it, but it never really had its own sort of AAA game recently. I mean, the other gaps there, if you think about Star Trek, God, we're overdue a really good Star Trek game. If they could make a Bridge Commander today, I think it would be my absolute dream game.
I remember playing I think it was the Voyager game. No, they had that shooter, which was actually quite good back in the day.
Elite Force.
Elite Force, that was it.
Yeah,
That was
yeah. There
quite
was two of
fun.
those games, I think. There was two of them.
I dabbled in a bit of online play with that as well. It's quite fun.
Yeah, my ultimate game really is sat on the bridge of the Enterprise or any of the Enterprises and basically having that command role like the game Bridge Commander, which I've tried to get running multiple times, but because it's now abandonware, I believe, but I can't get it to run properly on the computer, so it's annoying. But if they could do a modern 2021 makeup of a Star Trek game like that, I think that you'd never see me again, and I'd be happy.
But your dreams to be on the bridge of the Enterprise, double drop kick in.
I just like to sit in one of the chairs and just press a few buttons. I'd be happy. That could be a job for me. They did
More
actually make.
hard than a Kirk then.
They did. Yes, they did actually make. No, I don't know. Kirk is my hero. But anyway, moving on. That's another podcast. They did actually make Star Trek Bridge Crew, which was good, and it was sometimes good cooperating with other people, and other times terrible because they just acted like idiots. But it also didn't really have that much of a Star Trek flavor. They removed any of the references to the game and to the franchise, and it was just a bit of a strange one. It felt very bland. So I think they could do a lot better in a single player campaign and stuff like that.
Fair enough. Okay, so you're looking forward to to bring it back to what game you were looking
Yeah,
forward to?
Starship Troopers. I'm also going to hopefully dabble in Elite Dangerous Odyssey when that comes out. Total War Warhammer 3 is on my radar.
Oh yeah, I have put that on my wish list on Steam as well.
Yeah, I know you didn't like the second game. You refunded it, I think.
Yeah, it's just a bit. I don't know. Sometimes the Total War games leave me a bit dry. And when
Yeah.
you actually get into the campaigns, they're not as captivating as other games I play.
Yeah, there is an element of that. I think Total Warhammer 2, you judged a little early. It is incredible the amount of variety in that game. Every race you play gives you a completely different feel, but it is always doing the same things over and over, I guess, in that regard. I do feel that that's why I love Total War Three Kingdoms. Though the battles aren't quite as interesting because the variety of units isn't there, um, I do find the strategic element of Three Kingdoms really, really interesting. And every single person you play as plays completely differently on the campaign map, which is kind of interesting. So I also think that game is great for building moments in the campaign which are like stories and big battles that happen. Whereas other Total Wars you can play for ages and you don't have any meaningful battles in the campaign.
Yeah, my experience with the Total War games, and this is mostly going to be Rome Total War. What's the original? Uh,
Total
I know,
War, Shogun.
I know Shogun Total War. There was one after. I think it was Medieval Total War, maybe as
Yeah,
well. Anyway, it's just chasing down endless small armies, and then every battle became like a formula of the same thing.
yeah, that does
Uh,
happen. That does happen with it.
but that was just the more of the grand campaigns where I always like I would get 75% of the way through and just be like, oh, I've lost interest now because I'm
Yeah,
just fighting this same battle over and over again.
yeah,
Um,
that tends to happen. I
but
think the new games have got better at building moments and big battles. I definitely see way more big stacks in Three Kingdoms and end up having huge battles with 3 or 4 thousand troops on screen. That is one of the appeals of that game, and that does happen in Warhammer 2 as well. Um,
yeah, 'cause I guess the selling point of the Total War series is, like you said, building like, oh, I'm in a historical battle, the Battle of whatever, Vienna or something, and I'm it's an epic battle. It means everything. Not, oh, I have to chase this army down 20 times and attack it. The
yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah. I think it's improved. I mean, I know you played a lot of EU4, and I guess the strategic element is never quite going to add up to that. And that's probably one of the issues. The layers, it's trying to do so much that it can't be a sort of a jack of all trades, master of none in that regard. But yeah,
Yeah.
I did buy Total War Three Kingdoms to give it a go, and I ended up putting over 100 hours into it already. So I definitely enjoyed it.
And how many of those were just on the menu screen?
At least half.
What do you call this again? This is something you're always accusing me of.
Steam scumming.
Steam's coming. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're always sending me abusive messages being like,
yeah,
hey,
saying,
Steam's coming.
"Are you actually there? Are you actually in game?"
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to
My
run by you of just changing the subject slightly is there's a Mass Effect Legendary Edition has come out.
Mm.
You played a lot of Mass Effect back in the day, I think, on Xbox. I was watching another well-known YouTube reviewer review the game, saying that the story and the characters are great, but the gameplay is absolute trash. What was your opinion on that from Mass Effect?
I played Mass Effect. It was I pretty much primarily because I think it was BioWare at the time. Um, it was the same studio that did Baldur's Gate, which I loved. And yeah, the story is great, very engaging. You can play, the evil way through or the Paragon or the good way through.
You
And it
definitely
was
went
all
evil.
story driven.
You definitely
Yeah,
went evil. Yeah,
I was definitely evil. I was executing people left, right, and center. Um, but yeah, the actual combat and gameplay was not the best, and the world definitely compared to things nowadays didn't feel very immersive. Like you
yeah,
just
sure.
go to some empty planet, drive around it, get some minerals. It just felt a bit dead at places.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I have a secret sort of guilty pleasure, and that was I really enjoyed Mass Effect Andromeda. I know it was absolutely panned on release, but for some reason, I just loved the sci-fi setting of that game. I ended up reading some of the books as well, quite sadly.
yeah,
So,
very very sadly.
very sadly, yeah. So I'm a huge sci-fi fan, and for some reason, Andromeda clicked with me, and I just enjoyed playing it. But I might go back and give it another go soon. We won't. We won't.
Yeah, you mentioned this to me, and I gave it a crack as well. It was on, I think, the EA platform,
Yes.
and yeah, again, the same criticism. Like, it was quite immersive and fun on the ship, and some of the lore around what you were doing, but ultimately, the actual combat gameplay was poor. I thought,
Yeah.
not when you come from like those D&D games that have like so many layers and strategies to them, like the Baldur's Gate series, for example, that when it's just like spamming attack, auto attacks, and the same ability over and over, it just kind of loses its enjoyment after the 20th time you've done it. For me, anyway.
Okay, cool. Mass Effect. We'll move on. So another game and another series of games and actual lore and fiction that I love is Warhammer 40,000. So there's Warhammer 40,000 Battle Sector coming out. I don't know a huge amount about it, but I'm excited because it's Warhammer, and obviously we played a lot of Gladius, and it's something that's going to be upcoming on our channel as well. Um, are you a Warhammer fan?
Yeah, I mean, often I find with the Warhammer series, the idea of a lot of the games is better than when I actually play them.
Better than the
Um,
execution, yeah, for sure.
yeah, so I forget which one it was. You played it as well, and it was like literally walls and walls of text, and then you actually did the
Mechanicus.
gameplay. Mechanicus, that's it. You did the gameplay, and you're like, what the hell is this?
And
Um,
the funny thing about that game is it's totally critically acclaimed as well.
really?
Yeah.
I I just couldn't get into it. I played the campaign through. I even played it enough to win the first fight against the one you're supposed to lose, I think. Um, but yeah, it just never gripped me. And that's the thing I often find with a lot of Warhammer games.
And then the
The
same
one I
for
enjoyed the
me.
most was the Dawn of War series, the
Yeah,
original.
Dawn of War was obviously good. The same for me. I played Warhammer games. I played a lot of them single player. And then I also got you to play Deathwing with me, and then I realized how bad that game was.
What one? Which one was Deathwing again?
Remember,
Was
I
that
made you
the?
buy it. I made you buy it and said, "Let's do co-op," and we played it. And then by the end of it, we both had such a headache from the walls of enemies that were coming constantly. We were like,
Oh, this
"This,
is the one where the Tyranids are coming through the ship.
yeah, it's like Left for Dead, but with in 40k."
Yeah, it was like manic, and I felt like I'd taken drugs.
You probably
I,
had.
I felt like I was in some sort of weird rave that had gone wrong,
Yeah.
and I was like on ecstasy or something, and everything was moving in slow mo. I was like, "Get me out of here!" It's
Yeah,
torture
yeah.
me.
And I really liked that game when I was playing it single player, and then I realized afterwards, yeah, it's actually just tedious. Um,
Nothing worse than that you show a game or play a game that you really like with someone, and they just pan it, and
they
then
tear it
afterward
apart. Yeah, yeah.
you kind of see what they meant, and you're like, "Oh, fuck, this is boring." Well,
Um,
manic.
Another game that I briefly touched upon with you by a developer that I actually talk to sometimes on Discord is Empire of Ember. I'm waiting to see how it develops. Now it's quite raw. It's got some really interesting elements of story. You build a city and you can go out and raise your troops. Kind of Mount and Blade, but with magic. So I'm keeping
Okay,
an eye on the development of that, and I might do a let's play on that at some stage.
let me let me pretend like I'm not googling it.
Yeah, no worries. I think I
Okay.
did show you it once, and I think the reviews had just dipped into mixed, so you didn't really take it too seriously. But I played a bit of it, and it's quite good, and I might dive back into that again soon.
Yeah, I see what you mean by the Mountain Blade comparison. It looks a little similar from the images I'm seeing here. Um, it looks fun.
And then I think pretty much on my list then is all there's lots of sci-fi stuff. Infrastrata, Stellar Wanderer, Solar System Colonist.
Wow,
Lots of
we are completely different playlist.
Yeah, we do. So I've got lots of space games. Distant Worlds 2 is I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, lots of space games. I think the big one as well, Stellar Warfare is coming out soon, so I'm interested in that. So lots of space games coming up. I'm looking forward to those because I do like to play through that sci-fi and space. But the other thing I wanted to touch on before we finish is some of our co-op experiences or games where we played against each other.
Okay.
Do you have any particular highlights? I have one
Um,
to start off with.
oh God.
A Way Out.
Um, a way out. Yeah. So
Oh.
the thing with our way out playthrough is I had just got my new computer and I didn't have a mouse pad yet. And I was on like a shiny white table. And I remember when we were doing the kind of end where you're basically pitted against each other. And I couldn't aim in a straight line. And so you were like
You certainly
destroying
couldn't.
me at the end. But up until that point, every mini game that we'd undergone was like the fishing. You almost had a mental breakdown over the fishing.
The fishing, I had a bit of a mental breakdown on because I couldn't work out how to do it. And then the arm, was it the arm wrestling?
Yes.
Where neither of us would give in. And we literally were there tapping the keyboard 100
For
miles an
45
hour
minutes.
for about 45 minutes, with each of us going, all right, give in now, give in now. And neither of us would give in. And eventually you beat me. And I'll be honest, it hurt.
You know why I beat you? Because you gave in.
No, I didn't. I never gave in. I never gave in. I would not have given in. I probably did actually.
I
But
think you mentally capitulated,
yeah.
and
But then it was bittersweet at the end when I killed you, to be honest.
yeah, it still haunts me to this day a
I think
lot.
it does.
I can't remember. Was it Vincent and what the
I
names?
can't remember. It was ridiculous. The whole thing was utterly ridiculous. We killed some drug lord at the end. Then once we'd done that, it was all sort of gameplay that was kind of once again a jack of all trades, master of none. None of it was particularly good, but it all came together to form a interesting game, I guess.
Yeah, it was entertaining while we played it for sure. But it's the sort of game, you play it and you're probably never going to pick that game up again.
No, you'd never want to play it again, really. You'd never want it. If A Way Out 2 came out, you'd also probably be like, oh, we'll give it a miss.
It'd be a bit difficult for a way out too.
You
Not to
never
give any
know.
spoilers, right?
You
But
never know.
yeah.
So you got any highlights? Remember any games we played against each other, or were we on the same team, or anything that you enjoyed co-op wise?
Um, I do have a fond memory for our Total Annihilation crossovers.
No, no,
This
no.
many years ago, um,
Oh,
where I would just harass you from about minute two, and you would again capitulate. I'm starting to see a trend here.
I completely. No, my mentality with gaming is to turtle up and take my time. I'm
Yeah,
no good at thinking quick or doing things quickly,
if there's
and
an option to build walls in a game, you're
I'm
like
building that.
building
I
millions
am
of them.
building those walls and I'm building those towers, and I think I went for that mindset in Total Annihilation. And there was one game where it lasted for a long time, but eventually you just wore me down. And then another game where you attacked me so quick that I was like killed within a few minutes, and I just think I rage quit.
Yeah, started sending bombers straight away after your commander. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was fun. I'm trying to think.
Orcs Must
We
Die. We played a lot of that together. That was quite fun.
Orcs Must Die. That was we tried to revisit it and it didn't quite
The graphics were
work as
terrible.
well. Yeah, it seemed to have aged a lot, but that was fun while we did it. Um,
True.
trying to remember, we also played a little Age of Empires, but that ended poorly.
That ended because I was like secretly like killing your villagers or something, even though we were on the same team.
We were allied, and you decided it'd be great to get a mangonel attack ground on where all my villagers are mining, and I
And then you
kept
had a
running.
complete hissy fit and stormed off.
I wouldn't say a hissy fit. I was just like, we just put 2 hours playing against the computer on hardest.
I see.
You decided to quit by killing all my villagers.
Total War Medieval 2 when I crushed you.
Yeah, I felt like I was hoodwinked there. It was like, oh, I've never really played this game, and then and then like this tactic is executed perfectly with I think it was the Portuguese or someone.
Yeah.
Um, it was well done. I was hoodwinked there for sure. Um,
Rocket League. We
but
played a lot of Rocket League, and I think eventually you sort of came up to my level.
if we talk about co-op experiences, Rocket League, we did a lot of that. But I think there's a ceiling cap we have there, which kind of limits us.
As soon as anyone starts doing aerials, we're kind of on the ground. I think we're like world champions, but as soon as it goes aerial, we're no good.
Yeah, if it would stay on the ground, we'd be a lot more competitive.
Yeah,
But I can't do the aerial tricks.
no,
And
it's just
then
doesn't happen.
I would say one of the games we played most cooperatively was, or collaboratively maybe, is EU2.
Yeah, and especially the For the Glory game, the offshoot.
Yeah, the mod for the glory for EU2.
Yeah,
Um,
that was awesome. I
uh,
actually wouldn't mind doing a playthrough of that. That'd be funny.
yeah, I I mean EU4 we did a little bit, but never on the same level. I remember some adventures, like I call them adventures, but some campaigns with Austria and Venice, for example.
Yeah, that was EU2, right?
Yeah, that was
That was
in for
epic.
the
We
that was just EU2, not for the glory. That was a
we
hell of a
took
lot
over
of
the
fun.
whole world in that. That was awesome.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
really good. EU4, I remember we did one in Africa where I'd like to say Kenya or someone like that, and you were in the Middle East.
definitely weren't Kenya.
I don't know who it was. It was someone anyway.
I think you were Ethiopia,
Ethiopia. But
and I was one of the Middle Eastern uh, Emirates, I
I
believe.
played a
I
lot
was
of
the head jazz. I was the head
I
jazz.
played a lot of EU4, but I didn't used to play Iron Man. I used to play just normal mode. And then you came in and started Iron Manning all the achievements, and it just completely ruined that game for me.
I think you challenged me to the Chrysanthemum
I
Throne
definitely
achievement.
didn't challenge you. You did it
Yeah.
one day, and then I tried to go do it myself and failed about 10 times and literally just then never played EU4 again.
And rage quit and never got back into it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Starting to
just
notice the trend of rage quitting from
rage
both of
quitting
us.
games. Yeah. I don't know. I fell out of love with that game. I'm not a fan of their DLC policy. Um, I don't know. I just think that it lost. I'd be interested to see if they make an EU5. Wonder what happens there. Probably would buy it. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It lost for me. It lost that immersion, and it became a game about just gaming the system all the time and all the various systems. And I don't know. I just fell out of love with that game.
Yeah, I must say, like, and this is coming from someone I think I think if I look right now, 1,530 hours that game.
Gee, that's huge.
That's a good portion of my life right there.
Yeah.
Um, and I haven't gotten any of the recent DLCs just because I'm sick of what they're doing. And I think the Leviathan one, the last one they did, is I read somewhere it's the worst rated thing on Steam now.
Right. Okay.
It's accrued the worst rating, and they're just breaking the game constantly.
Yeah, they add so many systems to it that you can come back in, you don't even know what's happening anymore. It's confusing what parts you own and what parts you don't own. I actually avoid Paradox a little bit now, which is a shame. They were one of my favorite companies. But I avoid, like, even Stellaris is the same. It's a really cool game, but they changed some stuff early on that just took it in a different direction. It wasn't the same game that I bought, and that annoyed me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they really seem to pursue this DLC policy, which I can appreciate if they're adding extensive content, but it seems like now it's like almost pay to access the same game you had. Um,
Yes, yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I think that it is. And you can never keep up with the latest version because there's about 500 DLCs.
so a prime example for me with EU4 was they released development mechanic. They and you couldn't participate in using it really unless you had the DLC, but it was still part of the game, and you kind of had to buy it if you wanted to keep playing the game. And so that kind of over time that has just soured me to the game, and I can't play it anymore.
Yeah, and I think a lot of their later releases, like Imperator Rome, I think it was called, they
Yeah,
didn't do as well. And I think there is a gap there, and I think companies. That's why I support companies like Slytherin who are making a lot of different cool strategy games.
and
And
I think you mentioned this to me. It's good to support developers and help them monetize things, but it can't be just exploiting a classic game that everyone loved, and just like basically stealing from the wallets to keep your
yeah, and you can't
your
keep changing the game every 6 months, so it's no longer the same game it used to be. I'm pretty sure the version of EU4 I played is quite different to the version of EU4 you became great at, because I played it a
I
lot
don't
earlier than you.
I think you need to tell yourself that to maintain
Yes,
your ego.
yes,
But
that is
no,
my
I have played a completely different. We got it around the same time, but I've played EU4 back when we used to both play it, and now it's a completely different game now. Yeah.
yeah, agreed, agreed. The other game I'd like to briefly touch on, we've gone on a bit longer than I thought we would here, but what I'd like to briefly touch on is Warhammer 40,000 Gladius. That's something that we both definitely. I was really heavily into it, and then I got you into it, and we've done a lot of co-op gameplay off that off camera. And I just wonder about your thoughts about that game.
Yeah, I mean, it is. almost all combat. I mean, for it's all 4X, I think you call it, right?
Yep.
Exploration, expansion. Can't remember the rest, but I really enjoyed it. I like the differences between the races. It adds a lot of flavor to play as the orcs, as or then you got to completely change your strategy and play as the Imperial Guard. Obviously, I really like the lore, as me and you have been into it since the board game, way back in time. Yeah, really enjoy it, but it was definitely funner co-op than single player, I would say.
Yeah, I quite like it single player as well, but co-op does bring an extra element, especially of that mentality of gameplay I like, which is where you're under siege and you have to defend yourself. I like that. So that's definitely something coming up, I think, on the radar. So just to finish up, Tom, what do you have in store? What's your plan coming up with the channel? Are you continuing with the Heroes 3 series and finishing that out?
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep playing through that impossible playthrough on the map I chose. It's touch and go whether I'll win it. So if I lose it, I definitely will re-attempt it and kind of try and take some learnings from if I fail.
Win or learn?
God. Um, and then I think I'll probably do a playthrough either on Baldur's Gate or something like Colonization, some classic strategy game,
Cool.
something like
That sounds fun. That sounds fun. And by the way, I hate the mentality of win or learn. It's stupid.
that.
Anyway, for me, just so everyone knows, I'm going to be doing a hidden gem series where I'm going to pick out a few games in my list and go back and play them and put them out as hidden gems. I then also plan to continue with some random content here and there, so a bit more general content from myself while Tom does some of the hardcore Heroes 3 playthroughs, and obviously we're going to keep the co-op stuff going together. So really,
Yeah,
that's it for the Sunday chats. We will do them probably every 2 weeks at the moment, with our busy schedules. But just do like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate the support, and it's really good for us to see those numbers increase as we put in more work.
yeah. So like Luke said, it really helps us to get some feedback, positive, negative, constructive, whatever. And when you're a small channel, obviously every bit of growth really encourages you. So yeah, if you have listened to us for all this time and you've enjoyed it, please let us know. Thank you.
Cool. Have a great weekend, guys, and hopefully we will be back soon with more content.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.